Long-distance relationships aren't something you look for, it just sort of happens to you. Whether it is because your partner had to leave your city for work or studies, or if, like me, you met your partner abroad and decided to give it a shot anyways, the truth is that the catalyst for it is always change. Even if it sucks, it's always a good thing that you or your partner goes to chase their dream career or their dream job. And usually, long-distance relationships always start with the same promise, which is that this is not forever. Assuming that eventually, the distance will stop. Except when it doesn't. Or simply, the distance was too difficult to handle and the relationship didn't make it long enough for that reunion to even happen in the first place. So the question is it worth it? Well, if you've never experienced a long-distance relationship or you've experienced one but it ended badly, you're likely gonna say that it's not. But if you're currently in one, you probably believe that it is, or at least enough to try. In my case, I've been on both sides. My first relationship ever was a long-distance relationship, and it's pretty fair to say that it ended badly, but I'm still grateful for all the things that it taught me. And now I'm currently in a long-distance relationship with someone that I met when I was studying abroad. So, moral of the story, you don't plan long-distance relationships. There's just people that make you want to try. So to answer the first question, is it worth it? It depends. Is it only worth it to you if you stay with the person forever, or is it about the present moment and the memories that you share, even if the future is uncertain? There's no simple answer, but it's not really about the outcome of dating someone far from you, but more about the effort that it requires. Is it worth that effort, the struggle to communicate, the sadness of missing your partner, or the insecurities that one might develop because of the distance? Well, that's up to you. But the distance is there. And if you've started a long-distance relationship or have considered starting one, it probably means that your love and appreciation for that person are quite strong and rare, because you probably wouldn't have considered long-distance relationships with some of your previous relationships. But there's one thing that is crucial to understand about relationships, and mostly when they're long-distance, which is that love is not enough. Relationships thrive on three pillars: physical intimacy, quality time, and open communication. And without those three, it's extremely difficult to make it work. Of course, everybody communicates differently and every couple has different needs. And even if you excel at those three pillars, it doesn't mean that your relationship is going to be perfect, because it can't be, or at least not all the time. But there are specific things that you can do to protect those three pillars during a long-distance relationship. So yes, absolutely, it is possible. And the fear of that level of commitment might be the one thing that will make you miss out on a great relationship. And who knows, the partner of a lifetime. Luckily, we live in a hyper-connected world where people moving abroad happens quite a lot, but keeping in touch with them has never been easier. So chances are that you might end up in a long-distance relationship in your lifetime simply because globalization made them more prone to happen. My parents were writing letters to each other when my dad was doing the military service. My girlfriend's parents were writing to each other across the ocean. We have FaceTime. I know it's less romantic. But being so connected is not actually always a good thing, because first of all, over-communication can ruin a relationship. Secondly, people hate spending too much time on their phones because they sacrifice their ability to be present in the moment. And sometimes they think that their partner is the problem, but really it is just being too much on their phone. And lastly, social media can create really false expectations. So that happens to all relationships, but with long-distance relationships, particularly because it creates loneliness, it can create temptations and doubts, so that's also another problem. That's why I'm gonna give you 5 pieces of advice that I think will help you make your long-distance relationship work. This comes from my own experience as a person who has moved countries a couple of times, and so I have been forced into these types of relationships. But every relationship is unique, so feel free to take the advice only from the ones that are the most relevant to you. For obvious reasons, you shouldn't start a long-distance relationship with someone that you don't trust. In fact, you shouldn't start any relationship at all. But with long-distance relationships, you have very little visibility over the other person's life, thoughts, feelings, and the human brain always wants to fill in the gaps. So insecurities arise much faster, but there's a couple of small gestures that can make a huge impact. Give each other space. That's very basic, but giving each other time and space is crucial. And on the other side of it, sending a small message when you're too busy, like right now, for example, I'm gonna be filming in this park for I don't know how long. Sending a quick message to your partner to tell them that you won't be available is just simply respectful, and it avoids misunderstandings. Prioritize FaceTime or calling over text. Giving each other space is great, but it's really important to be intentional about making time for the relationship, and that can be a bit tricky, especially across time zones. But even a 5-minute call a day can make a huge difference, and I want to emphasize the importance of calling over texting. I think calling directly for a bit is much more important than texting, because not hearing the person's voice or seeing their face for a while can be very damaging for the relationship, even if you text extensively. The biggest challenge in long-distance relationships is that you are both growing and evolving separately. And that works, that is perfectly fine, as long as you're both growing in the same direction. In that context, it's really easy to feel like you're not part of the other person's life anymore, and vice versa. So just including some face-to-face moments can really help bridge the gap between your two lives. Avoid arguing over text as much as possible. If you're like me, you might prefer expressing yourself over text, which is great, but Sometimes with long distance relationships, the frustration of missing each other can build up and lead to stupid arguments that would have never happened in the first place if you were in person. I really encourage you to call the person when you can, FaceTime, simply because the nuance of the voice and the nonverbal communication adds so much meaning to your words. So since I've been applying that myself, my arguments with my girlfriend have been much shorter. It's simply because texting leaves a lot of open interpretation for the reader's mind, and that can be dangerous, especially with the distance. Now, my next advice is to share me time together. What do I mean by that? Sometimes you're not in the mood to talk, maybe you had a bad day and it's not even worth talking about it, but you would still appreciate the company of your partner. What I do with my girlfriend that works very well is that we hop on a call and we both do something that we like, that we enjoy to do in our alone time. So that's not something that we do consistently, of course, because true alone time is crucial. But for example, I'm gonna be playing video games or watching my show, she's gonna be reading, and we simply both enjoy each other's company. And that's actually something that we do a lot even when we're physically together. I think it's just very healthy to simply be able to have your alone time and enjoying it with the presence of your partner. It's also a great way to bridge the gap between your lives, even in moments where it's difficult to share quality time together because you're maybe both very busy or very exhausted. Finally, be intentional. You can still save some time for dates and quality time, even in long distance. So stop waiting for the next moment you will meet them. Plan meaningful stuff to do, have dinner, cook together over FaceTime, maybe watch a movie, or even dress up for special occasions. It's all about keeping things interesting and putting as much thought and effort into the activities that you do with your partner online than if you were together physically, if not even more. I would also like to emphasize the importance of always having a clear vision of when it's the next time that you will see each other, because it can be very difficult when that is very vague. Things simply become harder when you don't have anything to look forward to, but when the date is clear, that creates excitement and it can even fuel you. So be intentional about what you do with them, why you do it, and what you intend to do in the future as well. And I'll add a final bonus because it applies to all relationships, which is that transparency is crucial. Be open about the things that work, the things that don't, and most importantly, hold yourself accountable. Because to have a great relationship, you have to start by being the best partner you can be. Not every long distance relationship is gonna work out, and that's just a truth that we have to accept. At the end of the day, a long distance relationship is a choice. It's not for everyone, and that's okay. But for those who decide that it is worth it and want to give it a shot, remember this. Distance tests love, but it also strengthens it in ways that proximity never could. It sets a foundation that is very hard to break. So yeah, it's not easy, it's not always fair, but sometimes the most difficult roads lead to the most beautiful destinations. So keep that one in mind and see you in the next one. Peace!